Are all people mentally ill?
I have no idea.
Is this the Dr. Ray?
I'm out of work. How do I find a job?
I don't know.
Boy, you hit the nail right on the head there.
Now, why would I say something so dumb?
I don't know.
I don't remember what I said. Help me out.
I listen to you all the time. You're my shot in the arm.
Well, it makes sense from your perspective and your individual brain.
And I guess that's true, but doggone.
Well, are you better than God?
No way.
I think I'm going to have to change this channel. I'm sorry.
Oh, no!
Great stuff, Dr. Ray. I'm glad I called.
Now, from the studios of Living Bread Radio Network in Canton, Ohio, the hometown of Mother Angelica, here's Dr. Ray.
Dr. Ray, at your age, do you have any social media? I do. My two places. The bulletin board at my local Kroger grocery store, and my chart. So that's really how you follow me. Nice to have you here on The Doctor Is In. This is ePerson Monday. Had to find a way to address, I used to say tackle, but that's now, again, violent. Address the e-persons that come in from various places, either Living Right with Dr. Ray, the TV show, or here on the radio, The Doctor Is In. So we get a lot of great emails, many of which ask for a referral to someone in their area, or they will ask about a book. They will make a comment. Every so often, I get someone who just didn't like something I said. And it wasn't a matter of, I disagree with you. It's a matter of, you're just dumb. I mean, I'll admit I am, but not in the particular instance they were talking about. So I hate when I do that. It's kind of like forced teaming. So I take a sample of these e-persons, because I say persons because I don't want to say male. That kind of narrows down the gender issue. I want to include everybody. Take a sample and share them on this program. Now, I like doing it because many of these that I select, I can't take a real long one. Sometimes you get very, very, very long ones. But the ones I select usually are a couple weeks, 3 weeks, maybe older, and I forget how they end. So as I read the top part of the e-person, I will sometimes speculate on what's coming or how it's going to end, and I want to see if I got it or not. I don't just read the e-person and then say, okay, here's my thoughts. I usually approach it as though that person is talking to me, and then I add thoughts in between their sentences, their words, they're sharing. So all that said, that's inside baseball, and then we will get to that shortly. You've probably seen on television where the local TV crew, the camera people, going into a neighborhood after something has happened in that neighborhood, illegal or against the law, or maybe a fire set, something. And they'll interview the neighbors. Not unusually, the neighbor will say, boy, that's surprising. He was such a nice guy. Now, I would, if they were sitting in my office, I would say, okay, how did you decide he was a nice guy? Most of the time, it is not because they knew him deeply. And even when you know somebody a lot, you're still going to miss a lot of who they are. It just is. I mean, part of being human is being private. Bunch of the time, they'll say something like, yeah, I know. He would just drive by and wave, always very friendly. We had a cookout last summer. He brought a whole couple dozen of ears of corn over. So the knowledge of this person was very superficial, extremely superficial. But the conclusion was he's a nice guy. He's a good guy. It's a bigger stretch going from nice guy to good guy, but we'll leave that aside right now. And they're shocked because they figure, how could this nice guy break into 6 neighborhood houses? Doesn't fit. He seems so pleasant. I will hear people on media who a lot of times drop names and brag about who they hang with. Certain hosts are really bad at that. You're going to find out all the people they know. And typically they'll say something like, yeah, I sat with him at a banquet and we talked for 20 minutes, and I'll tell you, what a great guy. Just really a good person. And I want to say, you don't know that. You don't know any of that. All you know is that for that 20 minutes, he was pleasant and personable. I'm not saying you be a cynic and say, well, everybody I talk to, unless I really, really, really get to know him, I'm gonna reserve any kind of positive thoughts about him. No, I'm not saying that. But I am saying to be aware of many of the people in our lives, and I love the way Father Benedict Rochelle said this, are friendly acquaintances. In other words, we don't know them all that deeply. I like the word passersby. That's the bulk of the people in our lives. You see them at church maybe, you know them a little bit, you talk to them a little bit after Mass, or you're both sitting together watching your grandkid at a soccer game, make some pleasant chit-chat, and you immediately form a positive opinion because it's very easy for most people in social settings to be pleasant, personable. Why? Because there's no real conflict that's coming up. You don't have to make deep judgments about the stuff of life. You're just talking about your grandkids. And that is why I remember when certain very high-profile religious figures crashed, absolutely crashed. Things came out about them that were antithetical, absolutely contrary to the image that they had portrayed in the media. People couldn't understand it. They kept saying, but that person just, he seemed so holy, he seemed so focused on the Word of God and on the church. Yes, I'm not going to argue that. I don't doubt that he spoke well. I don't doubt that he preached well. I don't doubt that he gave a lot of good guidance. But that doesn't necessarily mean that his character is going to match it. Now, fortunately, much of the time it does. But there are those times when it doesn't. And that's what shakes people up. Routinely, no matter who I talk to, friends, relatives, when I hear it in meetings, someone will say how wonderful somebody is, how good they are, what a wonderful person they are, and their judgment is based upon very minimal contact. I had a caller, this was some time back, just goes to show you the impression I'm making. This was probably years ago. She called and said, "You must be a great dad." Now, she was basing that upon things that I had said or had been saying about being a good dad. Not myself personally being a good dad, but what makes a good dad. My response to her was, "Thank you, but you don't know that." I said, "All you know is what you hear me say. You can't know if I live it. You can't know in my home what I do." Now, I wasn't scolding her at all. The point I was making, it was a very nice thing to say about me, but she couldn't know it. Now, am I saying you don't compliment people? No, not at all. You give compliments freely, nicely. But you don't get shocked when you find out that someone you had a positive opinion of radically disappointed you or countered what you thought they were. That is very easily done. Very easily done. In my office, I not only see personal hurt and tragedies, sadness, but I also see and hear, I hear behavior that's bad, desires that are bad, and yet, not unusually, if there's a spouse there, they will say that this particular person is extremely respected at his or her job, in the community, at church. So there's this disconnect between the kind of stuff they do privately or in the home or in their marriage and their image in public. You see this with political figures. They come across speaking so well and so caring and so wanting to serve. And then you find out that their private life is just this wretched mess of immorality. Well, part of the thing that scares me is anymore it doesn't matter if it's a wretched mess of immorality anymore. We accept everything. Except smoking. Yeah, we don't like you to smoke. So I guess the point to all of this opening monologue is don't be shocked when someone doesn't consistently live up to their image that you initially formed about them on the basis of minimal or short-term contacts. Very easy to initially form a positive impression. Very, very easily. Use manners, laugh easily, be complimentary, etc. But then if you do find out some bad stuff, don't say, well, he seemed like such a good guy. Well, he came across personable. That's what you can say. I'm Dr. Ray. A lot of theories out about why humans need to sleep. I think one of those reasons is it's to charge our phones. I would think. Just something I pondered there. Thank you for joining me. This is Dr. Is In. I'm Dr. Ray Guarendi. This is E-Person Monday. We don't always do an E-Person Monday. Every once in a while, we will do a Listen to You Monday, like our regular shows, but most of the time, I dive into the communications I get. Dr. Ray, please help. I'm not sure what to do. And I always get kind of a little nervous when somebody says I'm not sure what to do, because my first thought is maybe I'm not either. And it turned out in this one, I think I am, but it's not clear. My parents divorced in 1976. The same year my wonderful dad learned that his wife had been cheating on him for years. And the youngest child is not his biologically. I put him biologically because he raised that youngest child, so he's dad. Dad continued to be a wonderful, loving father to all of his children. A few years ago, after Dad was widowed from his second wife, he told his eldest kids the secret he struggled to keep, unsure if the youngest should know or not. Okay, so you see what you have here? Dad apparently found out very early that this youngest child biologically was not his. It was because his wife had been unfaithful. He knew it. But our writer said he was a wonderful father to all of them. Now, the temptation, and I've seen it happen, is when someone finds out in a marriage there was an adulterous relationship and there was a child from it, but the marriage stayed together. It can manifest itself in differential treatment to the child that is not the biological child. I've known situations where a grown child has told me I couldn't figure out why my dad seemed to have an attitude toward me different than the other kids. Okay. So Dad knew this then. He wasn't sure if the youngest child should be told. Right. The details are that the other man who impregnated his wife was also married. He moved away and he has since died. Now, Dad has dementia. Mom has some short-term memory loss. In today's age of ancestry exploration, it's possible the youngest sibling may learn of the paternity. That is possible. Should this sibling learn the truth while parents are still alive in their 80s, so I don't know the degree of Dad's dementia. He may not be able to really clarify anything, so that they can answer this child's questions. Or is keeping the secret the best thing to do? I am torn. It feels like deception. Deception is not telling someone, how should I put this? Deception is not when you don't tell someone something. You just keep your mouth shut. It's not deception. Unless the truth would need to be known for their welfare. Now, in this case, if you make the argument that, well, it would be for their welfare, my response to that would be, why? What purpose? If I'm going to assume now Dad's in his 80s, so it's likely that this youngest sibling is probably 50-ish, thereabouts. Somewhere between maybe 45 and 60. So to say, well, we need to tell you that Dad was not your birth dad. Now, at that point, what then? Would that sibling be hostile toward Mom? Would that sibling say, well, then who is my birth dad? And you would say, well, your birth dad has died. So the question always has to be asked, what purpose does it serve to give someone information about something? In this case, it's something very personal. Now, if you say, shouldn't they know? Shouldn't they be able to know their roots? It's been 40, 50 years. Dad was the only dad that this sibling knew. So, is it deception simply not to tell this sibling? Given what you've said, for me, I would probably be reluctant to say anything. Again, the question is, what reason would I have to say something? If you say it feels like deception and that's my reason, well, then that's your personal reason. It's not the reason for the sibling. The reason for the sibling would be, well, don't you think it's fair that they know exactly who their birth parent is? All my children are adopted. The majority of them have no idea who their birth parent is. We, in some occasions, know. We don't know exactly where they are now, but we had information early on, probably could here and there find out. Do we need to do that? Why? What purpose would it serve? Now, if they said, I want to know, and then we would help them, as we did with two of my children. But if they said, no, I don't want to know. You're the only mom and dad I've known. And I think in some respects, that's kind of where it is with your sibling. This is the mom and dad that they've known. So I believe when I first answered you briefly, when I first got this person, I said, that's a decision that you have to make. A case could probably be made to go either way. But for me, I would lean just leaving it at a peaceful status quo. I had a friend once came to me, and he found out he was adopted. He was told when he was 35. He was very angry. His mom just decided not to tell him he was adopted, and he got angry when he found out about it. I know someone very dear to me who found out that the person that they thought was their birth dad was not, but they dealt with it very well. They said, my dad was my dad, and this was just something I had obviously no control over, and they dealt with it. And they were not bitter, they were not angry. They suspected, but they never really chased it and pursued it until they went through one of these ancestry things and then found out, ooh, these percentages don't match what I thought they would match. A generation or two ago, they never realized that there would be an ability to find out your biological roots. Because much of the time, it was just a secret that stayed a secret. It was a suspicion that stayed a suspicion. Oh boy, that's why these ancestry places warn you. You might not want to see and learn what you could. What is it about that music where you just... Well, I picture my friend, Bear Wozniak, world champion. Some of you might know him. He's done an awful lot for Catholic media. He's a speaker. World champion surfer. Incredibly. The guy is... We're not talking just a dude that goes out there and he's good. This guy is world class. Hello, Dr. Ray. I know you've adopted several children. It was recommended that I reach out to you by a friend. My oldest daughter, we adopted 3, has been a handful since she was about 8 months. Okay, does that mean that she was adopted at infancy, and as she got to be 8 months old, how are you a handful when you're 8 months old? I mean, you can be crabby, you can cry a lot. What is it? I would love to know the details on what handful means. I have been researching for years what type of behavioral issues I'm dealing with. I'm fairly confident she meets all the symptoms of antisocial personality disorder, even though she's 16 and can't officially be diagnosed yet. That's true. She would be diagnosed as conduct disorder of a various type, depending upon her conduct, whether it's aggressive, passive, etc. All right, let me make a couple comments here. Some adopted kids have sad histories, complicated histories. Most problematic is drug and alcohol exposure in the womb. Not unusually, an adoptive parent will say to me, I've had a lot of trouble socializing this child, moralizing this child, but I don't understand it because we adopted him right at birth. We were the parents from the beginning with all of our love and all our stimulation and everything. I'll ask, What do you know about the womb environment? Oh, his mother was a meth addict. She lost the baby very shortly after he was born. We think there was a lot of drug use. There wasn't a whole lot of prenatal care. It was a very high-risk kind of pregnancy. Now, unfortunately, the research is painting a darker picture, which is exposure to drugs and alcohol in the womb can cause real problems neurologically. And these problems may not manifest themselves in developmental delays. They may not manifest themselves in particular IQ problems. They may not manifest themselves in overt physical problems. As a matter of fact, I've had a lot of adoptive parents tell me that this adopted child is very bright, very bright. However, there is a frustrating amount of defiance or deception or sneakiness, resistance to rules and authority. And parents don't understand this. Where's this all coming from? Do not mishear me. I am not saying you do not adopt, and I'm not saying it's automatic. I know a lot of kids who have had rough womb environments, and they've turned out to be beautiful adults. What I'm saying is it can cause problems because that child was not in your womb, which was healthy and clean and taken care of, all of that. So she says she's been researching for years what kind of behavior issues she's dealing with. Well, good news, bad news. She meets the diagnosis of conduct disorder, but that doesn't help you. That's just a label. It just simply says she does A, B, C, D, and E, and she's done it for this long, so therefore she gets this diagnosis. You still got to deal with the way she is and what she's doing. Okay. I'm very wary of therapists and medications for things like this. And with my research, they seem to have very limited benefits. That's very true. Behavior problem, teenagers, adolescents are a low success rate. Very low. When I'm dealing with them, I deal with the parents. And that's what I'm going to suggest to you here, parent. That you get a good behavior therapist you can trust and say, here's the stuff this child is doing, and here's how I need to have the discipline skills to handle this as best I can. Now, that's not going to say it's going to get dramatically better, but almost always when I get a kid that's 15, 16 years old and is giving the parent significant behavior problems, there are things the parents can do that will help the situation, that will make it better. Or sometimes what happens is there's a lot of things they're doing that's making it worse. Or they've lost all authority. Or they've been overwhelmed, whatever it might be. Now, you've got another problem here. I was curious if you have any recommendations. My husband had a stroke, 4 years ago. And so our daughter has definitely been worse since then, as he was the one who dealt with her most effectively. So you have dad's authority either diminished or gone in this situation, which means that mom is probably struggling with her authority. So, Mom, my suggestion is this, and I think I referred two of my books to you: the teen book, Standing Strong, Good Discipline Makes Great Teens, and the adoption book, Adoption, Could You, Should You, and Then What? So I think I referred both of those books to you. But I also want to say this: if you're going to approach therapy, make sure you get a therapist who is willing to work with you to help you manage this child in your situation. There may be all kinds of things going on. She may have a smartphone. She may have unlimited internet access. Who's she hanging with? She may be violently resistant. She may be out of control, which in some cases you'll have to call in the authorities. Is she violent toward you? Is she totally sneaky to the point that she'll leave the house at night? Has she stolen from you? See, all these things can be happening, And what I've often found in these situations where you got a difficult kid to raise because of their early neglect or womb environment is that they bring about bad habits in the parents. Not that the parents are bad parents. It's just that with the relentless frustration of having to deal with a kid who challenges authority and who's very difficult to socialize, it's easy to develop bad habits. It's easy to lose a lot of authority because you're so frustrated and you're just doing anything that tries to work. Overthinking, overanalyzing, overtalking, yelling, screaming, negotiating, all these things. And they get to fever pitch. So, my suggestion, find yourself a good person to talk to about all this for you. I'm Dr. Ray. Thank you for joining me. Dr. Ray Guarendi program. Doctor is in, dispensing a very potent drug. Brand name, Docazin. Of course, it went off patent. This show's been on the air for 23 years. Went off patent. So you can get the generic tricyclinol. It's good for what ails you. Conquers Bratus majoris, Wustad syndrome. Helps. Puts you in charge. All right. This is E-Person Monday, so let's go to another E-Person. Hello, Dr. Ray. I've never written to a show before, but I'm running out of ideas, and I've been praying hard. I have always had difficulty with learning things at a fast pace. Employment is my problem. I guess I'd say what kind of employment? What kinds of things? An awful lot of employment can be rote. It doesn't have to. I mean, I'm going to see that these are processing problems. In other words, not thinking fast enough, or she's not changing gears mentally fast enough. She says, I've seen all kinds of vocational psychologists and career development counselors. I have some sort of ADD, ADHD. Well, it's one or the other. All right. One doctor said it's like learning math at a football game. It's kind of funny, but so true. I'd like more details on that one. I am on medication, and it usually works well, Adderall. Adderall does help focus. However, I'm in my early 60s and don't know what else to do. The workforce doesn't understand what it's like, and they want to close my case with them. Now, I'm not sure why they want to do that. Have you tried multiple places and they all fell through? She says, that's not to say I'm giving up on getting employment, but I'm guessing they don't want to deal with me anymore. Well, that could be, and I would have to know how many times they have steered you in a direction or set up something and it didn't work out. I hear you talking about problems with dysfunctional families, but didn't know if you had any knowledge of this. I'm praying that God will guide me to someone that will help me with it. Well, I don't know if I'm the one he guided you to. However, it sounds like this has been a lifelong problem for you. And at this point, you're in your early 60s. You're probably not wanting to retire. And I'm going to assume that you still need to continue to work. So the question becomes this. What kinds of employment are you seeking? If you're saying, I can't process things fast enough to succeed in a job where the demands are ever changing. So what about some kind of service job? Something that is relatively structured And once you have it, you have it. You've learned it. You know what to do. There are only so many things to master. You mastered them, and it doesn't require much other than simply performing them. See, that's what I would wonder. I don't know what kinds of things you said, this is what I want to do, and if they have said, well, okay, but from everything we've tested, this is going to be a struggle for you. So my suggestion would be that you ask the folks what kinds of, and if you want to use the word routinized, go ahead. What kind of routine jobs can I get? That could pay okay. They certainly can pay okay. There's a lot of jobs out there that mastering a set of skills is not real complex. I doubt that you want to be an electrician or an engineer or a plumber where there's a whole bunch of different problems to solve every time you step into a situation. No, you're looking for something that you can, with a little training, master. And once you get it down pat, you won't have to worry so much about being able to process quickly because there's really not much to process. It's habitual. You've learned it. You've got it. And you can do good at it. Now, I don't know many of the details, so I don't know if I'm way off or not. But it would seem to me that from what you're saying, that your processing speed, you say, I can't learn things fast. Nowadays, people are so grateful to have reliable employees, somebody who shows up, somebody who's willing to be trained, that they'll make a lot of allowances in most cases to teach someone the skills that they need to learn. I would think. This is Dr. Ray. Thanks for joining me here in the last segment of The Doctor Is In on this E-Person Monday. I figured I'd let that music close it up. Good afternoon, Dr. Ray. I have a question regarding the psychology of adult children's heads. So do I. Matter of fact, a lot. My wife and I have 4 adult children, 3 boys, a girl, 23, 22, 21, 20. Busy few years. Yeah, that's true. You had 4 under, it looks like 4 under age 3. Wow. All 4 of them received their sacraments from baptism to confirmation. 2 of them, the oldest 2 boys, are devout Catholics. The youngest boy will go to Mass, Christmas and Easter. My daughter goes to a megachurch. All right, that's nowadays ratio. That's pretty successful. It really is. You've got 2 of them very much in the faith. You've got one that has a foot in the faith, and he's very, very young, notoriously at a time when religion slips from people's consciousness. And then you have another one who's pursuing Christianity in a different setting. Okay. For now. The question, Dr. Ray, is this. Why will a child listen to their father about anything and everything in life? Well, we're going to see he really doesn't mean anything and everything. They come to me for car troubles, finance, work, food, house stuff, etc. But what goes on in their mind, Dad knows nothing when it comes to the Catholic faith. I'm not the best evangelizer, but I try my best to lead by example. Please let me know if you need additional info. Or when you end up answering this. Well, first of all, I want to give you a compliment. You've got two of the boys faithfully practicing. And the other two don't sound like they're hostile. I mean, I'm hoping your daughter hasn't gone into an evangelical because she is angry or hates the Catholic Church. Why will they listen to you? Because it's non-emotional stuff. It's non-soul deep stuff. They respect your capabilities on all kinds of things. Ask Dad. Dad knows about this stuff. But you say, well, I don't know what goes on in their mind about religion, about their spiritual life. My first suggestion would be ask them. Maybe the two sons who are in the faith, just ask them sometime. Hey, guys, I'm curious. How is it that the faith has come to mean so much to you? What is it? What is it, do you think, that directed you toward your faith like this? Okay. The one who's Christmas and Easter, ask them. Do you think that the church, you're angry at the church? You think it doesn't have anything to say to you? You kind of want to live your own morals? Now, just reading between the lines here, Dad, it sounds like you kind of kept quiet on these things. You said, I'm not the greatest evangelizer. Okay. But when you say, I don't know, obviously they're not going to talk about it, not because they're necessarily unwilling, but just the subject is not something they pursue with you. Okay, ask them. Talk to them. See what kind of reception you get. You may get a couple of them that are very open and a couple that don't want to talk about it at all. Could be. I would be curious about the daughter who's in the evangelical church. How is it that she decided that's for her the better place? That's for her the more spiritual place. What does she understand about the Catholic faith? I have a book called What Catholics Really Believe. It is a series I did years and years ago for EWTN, 13-part series. Myself and a priest. I went into the evangelical world for 8 years. At that time, I experienced many of the objections against the Catholic Church. I didn't personally have them, but I heard them. And I knew some of them were nonsense, showed an ignorance of what the church really teaches. I knew some of them were well-intentioned, but they didn't understand exactly what the Catholic Church is about. Some of those folks have since become Catholics. The book deals with baptism, morality, Mary, Peter, papacy, purgatory, confession, scripture. It talks about, from the perspective of, it's a dialogue between me and the priest. And I peppered him with objections. I gave him the standard objections I heard and are very common against the Catholic Church, especially from the non-denominational evangelicals, fundamentalists, Baptists, etc. I have the book on the website. It's very easy to read. It's a conversation between me and the priest. It's an actual dialogue. It's the transcript of that 13-part series we did for EWTN. That might give you some ideas, especially when you're talking to your daughter, because to the degree that she is hearing the objections against the Catholic Church, and generally those objections are founded upon a faulty understanding of Scripture, a total ignorance of history, and in many respects not logical. That was my experience. I'm not putting them down. I'm not saying they don't love the Lord. Just simply saying they could be mistaken in a lot of areas about the Catholic Church. And if your daughter is, if you can find out why, let her talk. Don't argue with her. Don't dispute her. Just let her talk. Hear about it. See what it is. And then look at it on the bright side. They got to come to you for a plumbing question or the best wax to use on their car. Do people still wax cars anymore? I know I still do, but I'm not sure people do. The other thing people don't have is walk-behind mowers. They almost all got riding mowers. If the lawn's more than 10 feet by 12 feet, they all got riding mowers. So that said, apparently it sounds like they really respect their dad. They really come to him for a lot of advice. Well, on this one, maybe you gotta take the lead on this one, Dad, for that kind of advice. I remember once I was in the kitchen and I had basically left the Catholic Church. I was in an evangelical. And my dad was sad and he was hurt. He was frustrated. And he said to me in his frustration, Raym, who got to you like that? And oh, you know me, I was cocky and arrogant. I said, Dad, nobody got to me. I decided this on my own. And fortunately, my dad lived long enough to see me come back to the church. And I know he was speaking out of puzzlement. He didn't know. I mean, his son was raised, and his son, through his 20s, through college, always went to Mass. Didn't lose my faith in college at all, but it was in my 30s. And I learned an awful lot about my church by being away from it. And God took that drifting out as a chance to give me an education, something I can use here on the radio. Didn't see it coming. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate the company so very much. Walk with God. It is your only eternal walk. Other walks, all other walks, will end.
For information on Dr. Ray's presentations, books, and CDs, visit drray.com and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.